Hello everyone, I've got another story for you. This one is called The Scissors. It's from a collection of 3 stories that I wrote called Grandma's Toy Box. So, as usual, I'd like you to get yourself sitting or lying somewhere comfy, on a chair, on the sofa, on the floor, and please make sure that everyone who wants to listen is there with you. As soon as you're comfy and ready, I'll begin. Okay? The Scissors. There's a lot of stuff in the box I don't want. So either you can use it or give it to the charity shop, said Grandma. Darcy Hobson looked into the big old box. It was painted dark blue with a huge lid that hung down the back on its hinges once you managed to get it open. It was very heavy. Have I got to take the box home? Asked Darcy. Her grandma's blue eyes twinkled. Oh yes, she answered. I'll load it up on your back when you go. Now, do you want another piece of my shortbread? After a glass of milk and a rather large piece of Grandma's delicious sugary shortbread, Darcy went to put her coat on, ready to go home. She loved coming to see her Grandma. She loved playing games around the old house, and she loved the scrumptious snacks she was given. Are you ready to be loaded up? Inquired Grandma. Yes, I suppose so, replied Darcy. She imagined the box would weigh quite a few kilos. Silly, chuckled Grandma. I wouldn't load up my favourite girl like a pack horse. Go and see if there's anything in the box you'd like to take home with you. You can sort the rest out a bit at a time when you come to visit. Darcy ran into the playroom, opened the box lid and had a good rummage inside. The only thing that caught her attention was a little pair of scissors with bright green handles. She carried them carefully with her as she went back to get her coat. Her mum was standing by the door in her pinkest raincoat. Darcy hadn't heard her arrive. Get your coat on, she said brightly. I want to do a quick trip to the supermarket before we go home. Grandma appeared from the kitchen with a round tin covered in stars. Here, Susie, she said to Darcy's mum. Take the rest of the shortbread with you. I know you and George will enjoy it. I know Darcy already does. She twinkled at Darcy again. Did you find anything? Oh, yes, look, said Darcy, showing her the scissors. I don't know why you want those, said her mum. You've plenty of cutting out scissors at home already. Grandma took the scissors and looked at them carefully for a moment. Oh, these, she said thoughtfully. I'd forgotten all about them. She gave them back to Darcy. Just be careful how you use them, she said, but I'm sure you'll have fun with them. After what Darcy thought was a very boring trip to the supermarket, she and her mum got home and had tea with George, Darcy's brother. She forgot all about the scissors until later, when she decided to make a card for her friend Camilla's birthday and wanted to cut some out. A very strange thing happened. It was like this. Darcy intended to cut a piece of card to the right size and then draw a nice picture on it. But once she started cutting with the scissors from her grandma's box, she found herself cutting out flowers with amazing petals and stars with loads of rays. She cut and stuck until a beautiful 3D card lay on the table. It all seemed to happen by magic when she had the scissors in her hand. My, that card is beautiful, exclaimed her mum. I didn't know you were so artistic, Darcy. Coo, said George. Will you make me a cut out of outer space? He was mad about rockets and astronauts. Anything spacey, in fact. Darcy looked at his shining brown eyes and the gap where his wobbly front tooth that had been about to come out had come out a bit early when she rushed through the lounge door too quickly, and he had moved a bit too slowly. She thought she owed him something after all those tears, and the black eye too. Have a go, George, she told him, but I'm not sure how it'll turn out. Their mum went to get them a drink of squash while Darcy set to work. The girl wasn't sure if she could make a 3D picture of outer space after all. "Can I have stars, please, Darcy?" requested George. "And a space station, and a couple of astronauts, and a comet, with a fiery tail." "I'll need a big piece of card for the background," Darcy told him. George toddled off on his chubby little legs and came back with a big dark blue piece of card. From somewhere, A3 size at least. "Did you get that from school?" asked Darcy. "I found it," George informed her. "No one was using it. Didn't want it at all, in fact." Then he refused to say any more about it. Just picked up other coloured bits of card and paper that he wanted her to use in his picture. Darcy looked at the big piece of card and the smaller coloured pieces around her. She thought about what things might look like in outer space, and she picked up the scissors once again. It was just like it had been with the birthday card. She cut and stuck and picked another colour and cut and stuck, and it all seemed to just make itself up out of nowhere, all through her fingers. George watched Darcy, and his eyes grew wider and wider at the great and fascinating things his sister was doing with the card, paper and scissors. To George it seemed as if they danced at the end of Darcy's fingers with some kind of magic. She twirled and whirled them as she cut and snipped, putting them down briefly as she stuck pieces in place. "Please let me have a go," begged George, because he was getting desperate to make something as good as his sister had done. "Go on then," said Darcy. "You make the astronaut. I've done the rest." George found some stiff white paper and a bit of silver. He was sure these were the colours he needed. He reached for the scissors, and his fingers tingled ever so slightly as he put them through the handles. And then he knew just how he was going to make his 3D astronaut. He cut and he stuck, and he cut and he stuck, and there it was, an astronaut doing a spacewalk. "Have you two finished already?" asked Mum as she came in with their drinks. She'd been chatting on the phone to her sister, so it had taken her a while. "Good grief, that's amazing!" Darcy, George and their mum stared down at a really beautiful scene in outer space, where galaxies whirled in the distance as an astronaut took a walk away from his fantastic space station. Darcy felt a glow of pride flush her cheeks as she looked at what she'd done, with a little help from her brother. "I'm going to be a famous artist when I grow up," she informed the other two. "Oh, good," said Mum. "I won't need to work at all then." They all went to stick the space picture on George's bedroom wall before going back downstairs to watch TV before bedtime. Only a couple of days later they were all sitting in the lounge once again. Darcy was reading a new book from school, George was puzzling over some sums, and Mum was about to make herself a dress. Well, she'd got some material and a pattern, but that was as far as it went, because she hadn't done that sort of thing for years. "Would you like me to give you some help, Mum?" asked Darcy, not because she was feeling especially kind, but because she didn't like the book she'd been given at school very much. "I think I would, love," answered Mum. "If you could cut out the pattern, please, while I decide where to pin it to the material." "Oh, good cutting," said Darcy with a grin. "I can use Grandma's scissors again." Off she went to get the scissors from the dressing table in her bedroom. In the meantime, her mum had spread the material over most of the floor in the room. George had given up doing his sums and was looking puzzled. "Why do you need to spread that all over?" he asked. "I need to work out the best way to pin the paper pattern to the material so I don't use too much," his mum told him, then turned to his sister. "Now, Darcy, cut carefully round the outline of the dress on the paper." Darcy set to work with those green-handled scissors, which seemed to whiz the pattern out of the paper. Her mum had only pinned one piece onto the material when Darcy had finished cutting. "Dear me, I don't know what to pin where," said Mum. "It's easy to see," Darcy told her, and took the piece of pattern out of her hands. This goes here, and if you pin that piece over there, then the number 4 piece will go in that space that's left there. Well, if you're so clever, you do it, said Mum, looking just a bit sulky, though Darcy couldn't imagine why. She set to work and pinned the pattern into place. In fact, she did it so well that there was enough material left to make the skirt that was also in the pattern. Shall I do that as well, Mum? She asked. Would you like a skirt in this material as well? Might as well, said Mum. Might come in handy. So Darcy cut and pinned and cut and pinned. Without really thinking about it, she began to cut the material round the shape she had pinned it to, and in no time at all, every piece of the pattern for the dress and the skirt was sitting there, neatly cut out, ready to be sewn together. There you go, Mum, said Darcy. All ready. I suppose you'll be wanting to sew it together as well, said her mum, looking a bit like she was sucking a lemon. No, thanks. I'm not interested in sewing at all, Darcy informed her. Mum suddenly looked a lot more pleased and took all the pieces to her sewing machine. Thanks, Darcy, she told her daughter. You saved me a lot of time making this dress. Darcy was pleased that she'd been able to help, but she was surprised that she'd managed to cut it out so quickly. You can do anything with those scissors, remarked George, as he went back to doing his sums, having watched Darcy do all that cutting. Do you know, George, I think you're right, grinned Darcy. Only a couple of days later, Darcy was on her way to Camilla's house for a sleepover for Camilla's birthday. She had remembered to bring out the lovely cut-out card she had made and a present of a box of rose and violet creams, which were Camilla's favourites. Darcy wasn't sure that rose and violet creams were alike, and wasn't at all sure she would like them. She wondered if it was a good idea to make sweets out of flowers. She got a bit worried in case Camilla had had her birthday sandwiches made out of flowers as well. Maybe a dandelion baguette would be better with mayonnaise, or a snapdragon finger roll with tomato sauce. Or maybe she was just being really silly, Darcy thought in the end. And she was just being silly because the sandwiches were normal, as well as jelly and cake. They were all delicious too. And the girls at the sleepover were all sitting watching a DVD and feeling very full for quite a while after tea. When their tea had gone down a little bit and they were feeling a bit more comfortable, Camilla suddenly said, Let's do makeovers. I got some new hair slides and ribbons for my birthday and some makeup. Excellent, chorused all the girls, including Darcy, who was quite fond of makeovers. Soon they were combing and brushing and putting on a bit of makeup, or in Camilla's case rather a lot, but then it was her birthday. Darcy was combing her best friend's hair. Ow, said Camilla, that hurt. Sorry, apologised Darcy, you've got a knot in your hair. It's always getting in knots, complained Camilla. Mum says I have to keep it long, but I've been begging for her to let me have it cut. I bet you'd look really nice with it short, Darcy told her. That's what I think. Tell you what, if I get a pair of scissors, will you cut it for me? Darcy's heart leapt into her mouth with excitement. Her best friend, the most glamorous girl in school, was asking her, Darcy Hobson, to give her the ultimate makeover, a new haircut. Darcy tucked her hands in her pockets to stop them shaking with excitement and, guess what she found? A little green-handled scissors. She didn't remember putting them in there, but then she didn't remember what she'd done with them after she'd finished cutting out Mum's dress pattern. Now she had her scissors, she knew she could do that ultimate haircut. As she put her fingers into the scissors handles, she felt excited. Okay, I'll do it, she told Camilla, and the other girls all squealed with excitement. Camilla sat in the middle of the room and Darcy stood behind her, magic scissors at the ready, while everyone else was sitting in a circle around them. Snip, snip, snip went the little green hand scissors, and the hair fell to the floor, and the girls' mouths grew wider as the new style took shape. Am I gorgeous? Asked Camilla after a few minutes. Give me a mirror and let me have a look. She wasn't too pleased with what she saw. The hair over her left ear was sort of short and shaved, while over her right ear were 3 short, thin plaits. There were long feathers of hair hanging down her neck, while the rest of her hair was sort of covered in alternative short and long bits. "It's good, but it's not really what I had in mind," she told Darcy, who couldn't believe what a horrible haircut she had just given her friend for her birthday. "Don't worry," said Darcy. "I'll cut a bit more off and it'll be just right." Snip, snip, snip. More hair fell. "As if I've been asked to come and take you home," said Darcy's mum. "What did you think you were doing?" "I was just doing a makeover," Darcy explained. "It's not as if I can afford to pay for Camilla to go to the hairdresser and get it put right," said her mum. "You've left her no hair to put right." "It was the scissors," Darcy informed her. "It was definitely the scissors." "Oh, Darcy, you know it was not. You have to take responsibility." "But I cut out the birthday card and the space picture so well, and the pattern for your dress so easily. I was sure the scissors would be able to do hair as well." "Just because you made some lovely cut-out work doesn't mean you can cut hair." "Well, Camilla liked her short hair." "Darcy, she looks like she's had the plague, and her mum is so cross because she wanted Camilla to grow her hair really long." "But Camilla really liked it," maintained Darcy. "Well, maybe she did, but her mum is not going to forgive you for a long time." "I'll apologise and make her a nice card." "No, you will not, miss. Those scissors are going right back to Grandma's before you do any more damage." A few days later, Darcy was explaining all the fuss to her grandma over a cup of tea and a hot-made ginger biscuit. "I think the scissors would be safer here, Grandma," she said. "I did warn you to be careful how you used them," Grandma reminded her. "But I did say you'd have fun." "I really did have fun, Grandma, but I will listen to your advice next time." "Of course you will," said Grandma in a voice that she saved for saying things that she didn't really mean. "And later on, you can put the scissors back and choose something else to play with out of the box." "That'll be nice," said Darcy. "But for now, I'm going to enjoy my tea and biscuits." And with that, she took a big bite and crunched away at the nicest biscuit she had tasted for ages.